What's going on, everybody? As always, you're watching Big Flippin' Bass, and today we're going to be doing some frogging, so stay tuned. We got some information and some little bit of frogging action as well. Hang in there, we're going to get onto it. So summer's coming to an end. Basically what that means is the air temperature is starting to drop. It's starting to go from hot to cooler. Here in the Houston area at least, this is our first day I've seen under 90, and we're sitting at like right at 88, 89. Still pretty hot for most places, but considering we've been about 98 degrees, 99 degrees the past couple of weeks, huge difference. The way it means the water temperature is going to start to drop. It's time to dust off the old fall baits, put away the deep cranks, and head up for shallow waters as the bass will start following the bait fish up into the creek channels, and up shallow feeding. So as the water cools off, the bait fish moves up shallow, moves up into the creek channels, and the bass follow in behind them. This is a good time for like rattle traps, ripping through grass, spinner bait, stuff that you can crank deep and kind of work not just the bottom of the lake, but intermediate into different levels of the water. Finesse jigs, swim jigs, spinner baits, like I said, crank baits, especially lipless crank baits, really good about this time of year to be ripping through grass, and frogs. So basically I'm going to show you how I set up my frog. I like to throw it on 50-pound braid. It's light enough to be able to cast my frog a good distance. Usually I like to throw it on about a 7/6 heavy action rod. Usually when I'm using a frog, typically it's around more heavy structure, mats, stuff like that. So I like the heavy rod to be able to get the fish up and out. But today I'm using a 7-foot medium heavy. It's the one I was using in the video you'll see next, or the portion of the video you'll see next where I caught all the fish. So first thing I do is when I take my frog straight out the box as a brand new frog, as I lay my legs out side by side, and I trim them up a little bit. You can see they're super long. I mean, they're longer than a body right now, the frog. This is a Booyah Pack Crusher Junior. It's a small little profile frog. I'm gonna lay my legs out here, and I'm gonna trim about 1 inch off of one, and a little bit less on the other one. I want one leg to be slightly longer than the other leg. And basically what this is going to do, if you can see here, when this leg on this side is a little bit longer, basically what this is going to do is it's going to help this frog walk a little bit better. So you don't want to trim it too short, but you want that one leg just to be a slight bit different, shorter than the other one. And actually I think I could cut a little bit more off of this one. So I'm going to take it back down to here, like so. And that's just going to help that frog walk a little bit better, okay? So I'm going to throw on the head cam, and I'm going to show you how I typically cast a frog like this, what I'm looking for, and how I typically work it. Now, generally speaking, frogs are best late afternoon, early morning. But really, you could be successful with a frog. Sorry for all the traffic noise here. All right, now that truck's gone. Generally speaking, you could be successful with a frog throughout the day. You want to look for shady areas up underneath trees, stuff like that. You could skip a frog in there. Look for stuff busting on top water like you see over there, and basically you just want to work a frog. It's a good way to cover water and work shallow, work in your shady points. So if you stay around the shady banks throughout the day, you have a better luck on topwater bites. But as the water heats up, the topwater bites does tend to stop. So basically, if I was looking at this, like I was going to try to catch a fish on a frog, I'm looking at my bank over here. I'm going to try to put this frog not in the water up against the bank, but actually on the bank. This is how I like to do it. I like to cast up to the bank and land actually on the bank, and just kind of shake the frog off. So it has a nice subtle presentation when it lands in the water. Now you see most people, whenever they first pick up a frog and learn how to work a frog, the first thing they're going to do is turn it around, turn the rod down, and pop the water and walk it back and forth, which is great. That's a really good way to walk the frog back and forth. As you see, mine starting to walk there. If you learn how to keep the slack in your line, it's going to walk back and forth. Great technique. Me, however, I'll give another cast out here. I like to keep my rod tip up and pop and stall. And if you keep slack in your line, you see it's already walking. If you keep enough slack in your line, that's the tricky part about doing it like this. You got to learn how to the timing of when to reel up some slack and when not to reel up some slack. And just twitch and pause. Twitch, twitch, pause. That's basically how I like to work my frogs. Now, the reason why I keep my rod tip up instead of down is because when you get a fish to hit that frog and you see that blow up, a lot of people, if your rod tip's already down, you get excited, you just go ahead and set the hook. You're gonna jerk that frog out of the mouth every single time. Whenever I keep my rod tip up, it's almost instinctively, for bass fishermen anyway, to drop the rod tip before they set the hook. So that little 2-second drop that you get in there almost guarantees me my little pause that I need for my hook set to have a better hook set chance. Now you want to, with the frog, topwater bite, stuff like that, you want to drop your rod, give yourself about 3 seconds before you set the hook into them. And that was a massive bass right there. I'm going to try to get him. Now when you land out in the middle like this and you're landing in open water, I like to stop until the rings are almost gone before I start working the frog in, or working my bait in. I'm going to hesitate for a little bit, wait for those rings to disappear before I start moving that frog around. Again, sorry for all the noise. This little pond's right off the side of the road, so there's a lot of traffic going by me, right off the side of the highway. Another thing I like to look for is current. You see there's a lot of current coming in this little creek channel here. Calm water sometimes will do good for top water, but I find it to be more successful when that current's coming through there. Just a slight current. You don't want too much current because it's going to throw up the action of the frog. But a nice little steady current coming through, like you see over there, is typically what I like to have. So we got bait fish jumping all over the place. We got that big fish just busted out in the middle there, so that's a good sign that there are hitting some topwater here. So I'm going to keep trying to work this frog around a little bit. I do have 2 other ones in my truck. I might go back and change colors just to see if we can get a bite. I wasn't expecting this. I was just coming out here to film a little education. But, I mean, if they're going to be busting and stuff, I might try to catch one. Why not? Alright, let's talk about the hook set a little bit more on this one. So I cast out. I got my rod tip up. I twitch it a few times. Boom! One hits it. So as I drop my rod tip down, I want to be sure that I reel down to the tight line. To right until I feel the weight of that fish on that rod. That's when I want to come up and set my hook. That gives me at least 3 seconds there. 3-second little pause. That's all you need. You know, even in your head, if you get good at it, if you want to sit there and count 1, 2, 3, then set the hook, that's fine. But me keeping my rod tip up and then dropping it, that tends to give me the perfect amount of time that I found. I really increased my hookup percentages by working my frogs in with my rod tip up instead of down. It's just like I was saying, cast out, nice long cast. I'm out in the middle, so I'm gonna wait for my rings to kind of disappear, and then I'm gonna start working my frog in. You know, a couple little twitches and pause it. Maybe a couple hard twitches. You know, change up your retrieve a little bit. Alright, again, if one was to bust on it, drop your rod tip, reel down till you start to feel the weight of that fish on that rod, and then lay into him. That's when you want to jack his jaw. So I told you I like to use 50-pound braid, and that's why, especially on this little frog. It's a real light frog, but this 50-pound braid is a little lighter, and it casts this frog really well. Another reason why I like to use the 50-pound braid over 65 is because it gives me a little bit more line on my spool. A lot of reels, especially like, you know, I told you I don't use real expensive equipment. They don't hold that much line, especially when you're talking about 65-pound braid. It takes up a lot of line, a lot of spool space, real quick. So this 50-pound braid is a little thinner. It gives me a little bit more line. It keeps me from having to worry about casting off my frog or casting off my line if I go all the way down to the bottom of the spool. And then also, because of the thinner diameter and the strength it has, it's strong enough to cut through the pads, or to pull through the pads, but thin enough that it cuts through them really nicely. So you don't have to worry about it getting hung up on the lily pads as much, stuff like that. You know, it's going to really cut through those grassy patches, the mats you're fishing, the heavy cover you're fishing. It's going to cut through it really nice and easy. But yet still give you the strength you need to be able to get the fish up on top of the mat and bring them back to you. That's basically how I work my frog. Let's try to move down a little bit. I think there's a little bit more mat down here at the end. I can kind of show you what I'm doing with the mats. Alright, so you got a little bit of mat in this corner. I don't think it's very deep. I don't think there's going to be a fish in there. But frogs is always a good place to work a mat. Usually helps if you land in the mat or on the mat though. Alright, so you cast deep into a mat. And basically what I'm just going to do is I'm going to kind of work my rod a little bit to try to keep it from getting hung up. But I'm going to kind of just pull it through that mat. You know, if you're on lily pads and stuff and you pop up on a lily pad, or you see a hole in that mat and you land in that hole, pause the frog there. A lot of times you're going to get a strike whenever you're up on that lily pad and you pause it, or if you just drop off that lily pad and you pause it, or if you find that hole in that mat, you pause your frog right there. A lot of times that's where your strikes are actually going to come in at. Those fish are honing in on that frog while it's coming through the mat. They see it knocking, pushing the mat down, they see the wake it's creating, and so they're keeping their eye on it. And then when it comes over their head, you know, or comes in that one hole right in front of them, right beside them, they're just waiting for it. So if you move it off that hole too quick, you might miss the bust, you might miss the blow up. But if you pause it there for just a split second and give them time to react to it, I guarantee you'll probably get bit more. You'll increase your chances of getting bit that way. Anyway, you know, obviously there has to be a fish there, and there's not going to be a fish under every little mat just because it's a mat. But there's a good chance that that's where he's going to be at. Alright, so I'm deep in that mat, and you see I'm just kind of popping that frog. I don't know if you can see it or not, just kind of pulling it through that mat. Alright, we hit some openings, so I'm going to pause. Alright, and then start working my frog again. Okay, and that's basically how I like to work my frogs. So the next portion of the video, which we'll cut to in here in a second, just me being successful with that frog. Basically practicing what I'm preaching right now. You'll get to see me using the same exact techniques, landing on the bank, pulling it in very subtly, getting the blow up on the top water, and then the hook set that I was telling y'all about. You know, reel down on it and then set the hook, drop your rod tip for the 3 seconds, then set your hook, and that's where you're going to have your better hook sets. That's where you're going to have all your luck at. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in a little bit. Choke the frog. Somebody call Peter, I'll let him touch the ground. little guy. Little frogfish. Got it. Oh yeah, that's decent. Come here. 3-pound chunk. $2.55. Nice. Another day, 2.5, 3. 2.5.
1 pound 15 ounces.
Really? The chunky 1-pounder. Golly.
Boom, right there. Hot dog.
I didn't even have a chance to set my freaking...
She
He hit it as soon as it hit the water. God almighty.
She choked it. Tore all your legs off, dude. Man. There you go. You can get her off. She's your best.
Thank you, sir. God dog.
She was waiting on it. She was watching that one.
Beautiful bass. I don't think she's only but 3 though.
Yeah, she's on the thing. She got a big old head. Summer bass. She's skinny. Out here normally way fatter.
There you go, mama. Alright, so that was Froggin 101, big flipping bass style. I hope you liked the video. I hope it was informational for you. Be sure to hit that little like button down below and be sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Like I always say at the end of my videos, tight lines to you, and I'll see you in the future.